welcome to this next awesome episode of React Native Radio. I'm your host, Peter Piekarczyk, and today on our show we have Sander Spies. Hey, Sander.
Hi, thanks, Peter, for having me on the show.
Yeah, welcome. We're so happy to have you on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm actually just another front-end developer. I basically work as a freelancer for different kind of companies. Been doing I've worked with React basically since the end of 2013, and last year, Reason has gotten on my radar, and I basically started working on that.
That's exciting. So today's episode, we're going to talk a lot about Reason. We'll see how far we can get into Reason with React Native, but we're primarily interested just to hear, a little bit about it. Everyone's been talking about it, but no one really knows, anything about it. So can you tell us a little bit about what Reason is and why you might want to use it?
So Reason is what's called a meta language. Meta language right now is there's a lot more involved right now, but the basic idea of a meta language is we take another language and we basically create another language on top of that. So we have the OCaml language, and we basically add a different syntax on that, and that's basically Reason. But Reason is just more than that. It's also tooling and basically the whole community behind that. So that's kind of like the points behind Reason. So what's interesting there is that if you're familiar with JavaScript, of course you are, because we're talking about React Native here. Within JavaScript, you have kind of certain limitations with how far you can get with writing maintainable software. And basically, if you have like a React application, and even if it's also a React Native application, like your main bottleneck for like maintenance issues won't be React; it will be the language that you are using. So within the JavaScript community, and especially the React one, we created all these things upon the language to try to improve that maintenance situation. But we never really, it's always halfway there. For instance, we have like the static typing part, which we can do with Flow, or if you went to TypeScript, you can do that. But if you're familiar with those, for example, you would know that there are certain pain points with achieving that. It's not as easy as what you would want, actually. Same goes for immutable data, which is another part which will help you with writing maintainable software. But it's always it's not an easy to go to solution. And even if you would combine those, for instance, with if you would combine Flow, for instance, with immutable, it's not as pretty as it should be. And if you have all these things within the language, and plus a whole lot more, it's not just that, but it's really a whole lot more. It's like this powerful concept that you have, this powerful language that you can use, and it really helps you write maintainable software. And that's really a nice thing. It's kind of like hard to explain right now. I really recommend people to give it a try. But that's really, for me personally, that's the selling point, writing maintainable software.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, the markup language part. So Reason is built on top of OCaml, right? Why would somebody want to do that instead of starting from scratch?
Well, So OCaml is a language where there's a lot of smart people. I believe they are smart. I believe they're a lot smarter than I am. Or thinking about the language, and they basically have all the defaults that we already want within the JavaScript community. So I was already mentioning, there's the immutable part, there's the flow type part. Plus the language offers a lot more. That's really interesting. So that's kind of like, if you're from JavaScript and you want a better language, then OCaml would be like the default choice. However, it's like the syntax is not that, it might put off some people. Plus like the tooling, it's like you're stepping from one universe and you stepping into another one. And it's kind of difficult there. So we try to remove that with Reason. So we try to make it easier for people to start using OCaml, but basically we don't call it OCaml, we call it Reason, and we give you a nice syntax, and we make sure that the tooling that you are used to from the JavaScript community is like is easier usable there.
Yeah. So one of the highlights of Reason is that it takes the current OCaml syntax, but makes it a little easier to understand from a JavaScript perspective.
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool. So now were features like flow, like how you mentioned, like how JavaScript has immutable and flow type. Does OCaml have those same characteristics, or are those things that were introduced into Reason as a selling point?
So what Reason basically is, Reason is just syntax. And the syntax that Reason provides is like, it translates directly to basically OCaml code. So what you can do is you can take existing OCaml code and change it directly to Reason code, or you can use Reason code and change it directly to OCaml code. Basically, the only thing that we do is that we change the syntax, but we are using the same AST. So we are using the OCaml AST. So yeah, we don't really actually do anything new there. It's like OCaml already provides the right defaults that we want to have. And yeah, it's just making that more familiar. It's that more easier to understand.
That's really cool. So if you're already very comfortable with OCaml, can you compile that directly into JavaScript, or use, some sort of like a React, OCaml library to build your React views in OCaml as well? Or is there no, connection there?
So there's, you can write basically, you can use, there are several solutions there. There is basically Backup script that allows you to write OCaml code and output that towards JavaScript. So that means also that you can just write Reason code and output that towards JavaScript. The other part of your question?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about Buckle script and what that does?
So Backup script, it's one of the, it's really an exciting project. It's one of the things that Reason kind of builds upon. It basically what it does. It kind of like translates this your code basically towards JavaScript, but it does it in quite a nice way. It's the output of the code it's really nice. I would really recommend people, if you're just interested in like having like a really small output, that's really interesting to look at.
Cool. So when you're writing Reason, how does it work in terms of JavaScript, right? Do you have to start a brand new Reason project to write your React code, or can you start using Reason in a current JavaScript project? How do you feel about all that?
So one of the major points for Reason, Reason is of course largely targeted towards React developers. So there's already there are already bindings towards React. So that's really nice. I know there's been there's a lot of emphasis has been put on that. So I would really recommend people to try that. And the idea there is actually really to make it easy to integrate Reason within an existing React project. So if you're already using React and you want to try Reason, that's possible.
Oh, cool. So there wouldn't be an issue with, starting writing with like a small component, like a logo, for example, or, or even something.
That's really the idea.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Do you know, are there companies already incorporating Reason into their workflows, or is it still very early stage?
Yeah, I know there are some companies. The obvious one is of course Facebook, but I know they're using it for like several products already. Yeah, I know there are experiments out there. I know there are the meetups are growing right now, but I'm not sure if there is a second one that I can think of right now.
Oh, cool. So let's talk a little bit more about, Reason itself. So when you compile Reason, what does that JavaScript look like?
Yeah, I need to show you actually. So that's.
Oh yeah, no problem. Well, is it very similar to what your source code would look like, or is it more, kind of jumbled like what Babel may give you?
It's probably a little bit jumbled, but I believe it's really readable. So yeah, it's of course it's not like this 101. So that's it kind of depends on your point of view here.
So
Yeah,
somewhere in between.
it's good. So
Cool. So somewhere in between, it's not because the reason I ask is because I've heard that you're supposed to check in both your reason and your compiled JavaScript code, right?
yeah, it kind of depends on what you're targeting. So if you're, for instance, if you're already like probably targeting like if you're using JavaScript, then it might indeed be wiser to indeed just to include the output of JavaScript. I'm not sure the idea there. So
Cool.
I'm not totally familiar with the use case that you're describing there. So
Oh, okay. Maybe I heard the wrong news somewhere. Anyway, so do you know anything about the performance of code written in Reason that's compiled to JavaScript? Is it better or worse right now? Do you know of any plans on, if it's worth improving it in the future?
So what's nice here is OCaml provides like this really nice type system that's quite strict that we can nicely use for performance. So PokerScript is also doing that. So probably code that you will write within Reason that's output towards JavaScript will most likely be faster than the code that you would be writing yourself.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. And that's because of the type system that OCaml provides, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? Obviously, for the listeners here, they may have used FlowType before, they may have used TypeScript, but, many of us haven't used, OCaml and its type system. So maybe it's a little too complicated, but is there any way you can give us like a high level overview of the benefits of its type system?
So basically, the benefits here are what OCaml has is that this type system is it's inferred, which means that you don't need to provide like types everywhere that you, for instance, need to do with Flow. Flow is already a lot nicer than TypeScript, for instance, in there, but Reason and OCaml make it go even further there. So you basically describe your types, and it can infer that if you describe something, that it's this type. So that's really nice.
So you say that OCaml has an inferred type system. What's the opposite of that, right? What's like a language that is completely opposite in that regard, where you do need to put types everywhere?
It would be called Java or C# or something. It's this kind of like if every function that you have, it needs like you need to describe the types, the input that you get there, and it's really different with OCaml there. So it's a lot less verbose there. So what's kind of nice that you can within your editor, for instance, you can a lot easier inspect like if you have a certain variable, then you can actually have guarantees that it's a certain type. Of course, that goes for basically every type system, but here it's kind of nice that it's inferred there.
Oh, okay, cool. So when you're writing Reason or OCaml, for example, so maybe this is a little too in depth, but like how does it infer? Like what says like, oh, okay, like I know this is going to be a string, or I know this is going to be a number.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure how the like what the details are there, but I believe so. Don't quote me on this, please. But I believe it's basically the usage of the like variables that it sees like, okay, you're now using an integer, also everything here now needs to be an integer, or you're using this kind of record or this kind of object, so this needs to match there. So it's something needs to be like that. It needs to be something like that.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about OCaml and Reason for JavaScript, right? This is React Native Radio, so there's a lot of people here that have interest in both, React and React Native. But what are some other use cases for Reason?
So probably some people are already familiar with Docker, I guess. So OCaml is used a lot within the Docker Docker product. So it's that might be interesting, like for a use case there. I know it's used basically a lot of by at least one financial company. And yeah, there are like multiple use cases there. It's really kind of like what you want to build there. So you can. It's really up to you as a developer. It's probably everything that you can think of could probably be created with OCaml. So
Cool. So now, does it compile to another language? Does it compile to the bare metal? How would that kind of work out?
So OCaml really compiles nicely, and even compatibly, like if you would write like more native C code. There's interesting. There was an interesting test there. So what was done at Facebook was at least by Jordan Walk from React and the recent team. Was to basically try to implement like I'm not sure how it's with the layout renderer or at least the Yoga from React Native to implement that within Reason. And actually within Reason it was actually faster than like the C implementation. So that's kind of like this really, at least it blew my mind there. So
What? That's crazy. So the Reason implementation was faster than the C implementation?
yeah. So I could I'm at least going to share the link with you.
That's really cool. So, speaking of sharing links, are there any good resources or, community links that, others who are listening can check out?
So there's like the most important link I can give is basically the Discord channel. I really recommend people to go there and ask questions. I must say, like right now, we have like this emphasis more on the web part of React. So the native part, it really needs more attention. But yeah, we are not there yet. So it's something that's coming. There's a lot of potential there. Like I just said, performance-wise, it's really interesting if you would be writing like your like more native parts there within Reason. Also, just if you would replace like your JavaScript code with Reason, it would be a lot faster. So there's a lot of potential there. It's really, the story is not finished there yet.
Okay, so definitely worth giving Reason a shot for the web, but holding off on anything for native, right?
Yeah, so it's really it's really early days. So I really recommend people to try it out. Also complain if things don't work. But yeah, on the native side, really, the story is not complete there yet. So be warned.
Okay, cool. I know there's a few people that have been experimenting with React Native and maybe creating some unofficial bindings for them. Is that even worth taking the risk right now? Or, if you're really excited about Reason, should we just stick to the web so we don't burn ourselves out?
Yeah, it kind of depends. If you're using it for a personal project or for just experimenting, then I would recommend just go ahead. But if there's money involved or anything, if you're doing it for your employer, I would personally recommend against it right now.
Okay, cool. That's good to know because I was literally going to try to do something with it. So I won't. For native.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm probably burning some credits here. But it's something that I would not recommend right now. So there's a lot of potential there. So that's kind of like what I would recommend. If people are really interested in having like better performance and a better experience, yeah, I would kind of like recommend to really dive into Reason.
So in terms of contributing, if you wanted to contribute back to Reason, is that strictly OCaml, or are there other languages or things the community can do to help make the project better?
So there's a lot of involved there. So it's we call Reason a meta language, but not only because of that we are a language on OCaml, but also because there are more things involved. There's documentation, and we also call it meta language. There's Chenglu gave a whole talk about this. There's community, and all these parts, all these parts are important. So also like the bindings to like JavaScript projects are also important. So there's a lot of things that you can do there.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So anything from documentation to helping build the website, maybe even, pulling down some pull requests and testing code are all good things that, people who are interested in helping out can do.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've been talking so much about the Reason as a language in OCaml, but what are the high-level goals of Reason? Why did they start the project?
So Reason was basically started. So let me go back there a little bit. So like the early version of React was written within standard ML, which is kind of like similar to OCaml, but as a JavaScript developer, that might be like totally unfamiliar to you. And of course, like luckily, like React was written within JavaScript, so we all could understand it and use it. And because of that, like the market share really took off there. However, this ML and now it's like this OCaml language really provides a lot of interesting features. So one of the things that Jordan Walk did, like the creator of React and also the person who started first with React within standard ML, was try to do it within OCaml. So he basically also written like this experimental version of React within OCaml at Facebook, but there's like this main problem there. The main problem there is like you cannot expect people from the JavaScript community to jump on that. The problem really there is it's kind of like this unfamiliar. It's like unfamiliar for you as a JavaScript developer. So you're looking at the syntax and you don't understand it, and this ecosystem is kind of like weird. And that was kind of like the start for Reason. It's like, let's have this really nice language that we can use where we have all these like kind of like nice features. So OCaml provides like static typing, immutability, and a whole lot more that you actually would want if you want to create maintainable software. And let's lay like this nicer syntax on top of that, and let's provide nicer tooling there. And that's really actually the story for Reason. And it's really targeted towards like React developers.
Wow, that's really cool. So I've always wondered, like why a new language, especially because we have, Babel and FlowType and Immutable now, like why all of a sudden pull that all out under, our feet and try something new? But, it really makes sense.
What's nice there is you mentioned like Babel and all these other tools, and I can tell you, if you're going to do it with like the recent toolchain, it's going to be a lot faster. You're going to be surprised with how fast it's going to be.
That's really good to know. All right, well, that about wraps up, our episode. Sander, at the end of the show, we always do a pick. Do you have any picks for us tonight?
I can give you some links later on, but right now I don't really have something really directly. There are some examples that I can give you for recent projects.
Yeah, if you have one at the top of your head, that would be awesome. Just something, and anything somebody could Google or check out.
So Jared Forsyth has like this really nice, he's really doing a lot of fun stuff with mazes at the moment. So I really recommend to check that out. I can just send you the link, and it's a lot of fun to watch, the animations there. So
cool. Well, Sander, that about wraps up our episode of React Native Radio. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I know I will appreciate it, and everybody else listening will appreciate learning about Reason today. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks for having me, Peter.
All right, thanks again.